My beloved child, I am not angry because you were weak once. I am in pain because so many times you have taken my words lightly. The signs I sent you, a restless intuition, a gentle reminder, an event that made you hesitate. All of these you brushed aside like background noise in a busy day. At this point, I can no longer remain silent, because your next step is no longer just a harmless little gamble, but a move closer to a land where the darkness will no longer play with you. I am speaking to you, not to threaten you, but to pull you out of the illusion of safety you have built for yourself. You dream of a life free from all limits, but you do not realize that the very moment you slip away from my embrace, you are throwing yourself, unprotected, among countless invisible blades. I have declared, "Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty," Ps 91:1, and yet you still choose to shelter under flimsy roofs, invented by your most own heart. Today, I am not only calling you back, I want to open your eyes so you can see clearly. My protection has never disappeared. It is only that you are standing on the outer edge of that place of shelter, while still imagining yourself as safe as before. Have you noticed that since you grew up, you pray less, you listen less, yet you speak more about your own personal faith? You still go to Mass, still serve, still call yourself my child, but in many choices of your daily life, you have not asked my will for a very long time. When you step out of my arms on your own, you do not fall straight into an abyss. You still eat, still sleep, still laugh and talk as usual, and that is what is dangerous. This false sense of peace makes you believe that my absence carries no real consequences. Then you begin to seek safety in what can be counted. The amount in your bank account, the lover at your side, a few career doors that look wide open. You lay your whole heart on those fragile wooden beams and call them blessings. As long as everything goes well, you automatically assume that I am protecting you. But when the wind changes direction, you quickly ask, "Why does the Lord let me be like this?" While you do not dare face a simple truth, many times you have pulled your own chair out from under my eaves, then sat out in the rain and complained that the house no longer keeps you dry. My protection is not a magic bubble that keeps you from every bump and bruise, but a realm where, inside it, every thought, every decision, every step you take is placed under the light of my word. When you live by your emotions, by trends, by the fear of being left behind, you are slowly moving out of that light without realizing it. I am still there, still watching you, still intervening to the extent you allow me to, yet the farther you go, the more my voice sounds like a distant echo, while the voices of the crowd, of social media, of your wounded ego ring out like commands. That is why I must begin at the point you think is the most harmless, the way you approach my word. You do not openly oppose my word. You merely skim it to get it over with, read a few verses to fulfill a duty, listen to a few homilies to ease your conscience, then close it again as you would fold up a leaflet. Every time you do that, you are quietly dismantling one more layer of roof over your soul without realizing it. My word was sent to build an invisible fence around your mind, but when you treat it lightly, you are deliberately stepping outside that fence. And that is where I will lead you deeper into this first point. When you skim over my word, you yourself are taking apart the roof of protection that, in my goodness, I had already set up for you. I want to speak to you about something very small yet extremely serious, the way you encounter my word each day. You think you are still fine simply because you still whisper a few prayers, glance over a short passage of scripture, listen to a sermon when you have time, while your heart is far away. Each time you open my word with the mindset of reading just to finish, you are like a person who steps inside a shelter during a storm, looks around once, and then walks right back out into the weather. I have already said, my word is a lamp to your feet and a light to your path. Confer Ps 119 to 105. Yet in you that lamp is only switched on for a few seconds before being hurriedly turned off. It is not that I withdraw my shelter from you, but that you are gradually dragging your chair away from the safe circle of light, sitting closer and closer to the edge of the shadows, while still reassuring yourself, I am still a believer. You tend to think danger comes from big temptations, from obvious falls, whereas most cracks in the soul begin with an attitude of careless. But it doesn't seem wrong. When you listen to my word the way you listen to a news report, you unconsciously place me on the same level as all the other sources of information you scroll past in a day. My word gets lumped into the list of things to get done instead of being the source of life. As I have said, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God. Confer. Mount 4-4. At a certain point you realize you can go an entire week without reading a single verse and feel no lack at all, and that very feeling of no lack is the greatest alarm bell. When everything on the outside is still calm, you do not see that inside, your spiritual immunity is slowly weakening. Like a sick person losing the sense of pain and therefore no longer knowing which part of the body is decaying, I know why it is so easy for you to skim over my word. Partly because of the hectic pace of life, and partly because you have been taught that reading scripture is a religious duty more than a living encounter. You are afraid that my word will question your habits, your relationships, your choices that you do not want to let go, so you choose to read the pleasant parts, the comforting verses, and then quickly leave, before the word can touch the place you are trying to hide. You are swept up in the rhythm of scrolling on screens, and you carry that same habit of scrolling into your relationship with me. You forget that my word is not content to be consumed, but a seed that needs time to take root. As I have said, the seed is the word of God. Those who, having heard the word, hold it fast in an honest and good heart and bear fruit with patience. Confer. L.K. 11:15. When you no longer persevere in remaining with the word, you are also telling me, even unconsciously, I don't have time for you, but I still want you to protect me. And yet, I do not reproach you just to leave you there. I want to lead you back to a very simple attitude that my saints lived, opening the word as you would open the door for me to enter your home. You do not need to become a theologian. You only need to be honest. Father, today I am tired, I am distracted, but please say just one thing to me, and help me stay with it all day. When you begin to read more slowly, to stop at a single verse, to repeat it in your heart, remain in me as I remain in you. Confer. JN 15-4. You will sense a very quiet shift. From seeing my word as a burden to be completed, you will find it becoming the place where you pour out your fears, your confusion, the questions you dare not voice to anyone. Then, my protection will no longer be a vague concept, but an experience. In the midst of a tumultuous day, the word you prayed in the morning suddenly returns like a shield, reminding you to stop in time, to turn back in time, not to say the things you will later regret. At that moment, you begin rebuilding, brick by brick, the roof you had unknowingly taken apart. I am not demanding that you become perfect in a single day. I am only inviting you to begin with very small but sincere steps. Instead of skimming a whole chapter just to manage it, you can choose a short passage and let me speak it over you again and again throughout the day, letting those words soak into your wounds, your anxieties, the dark corners you do not dare touch. When you allow my word to touch the exact place that hurts, you may not feel comfortable right away. Sometimes you will feel challenged, uneasy, exposed in those excuses that once seemed so devout. But do not be afraid. for I do not expose you to shame you. I shine light to heal you, as my word in the letter to the Hebrews says. The word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing, discerning the thoughts and intentions of the heart. Confer Heb 4:12. If you are brave enough to remain in that light, you will discover a new kind of safety. Not safety because nothing hurts anymore, but safety because every pain lies in the hands of a Father who knows exactly where to cut, where to stitch, where to bandage. Gradually, as you allow my word to become your familiar breath, you will discover a truth you seldom consider, that feeling good is no longer the only measure of whether I am near you or not. There will be days when you open the Bible and feel dry, when you read and feel no movement, when you pray and no tears fall. But if you remain faithful, still whispering, Father, I am here, you are building a foundation that no storm can bring down, the house built on my word, as I told in the parable of the wise man building on rock. Confer Mount 7:24-25 is not the house that never meets rain, but the one that still stands when the waters rise and the winds blow. And precisely when you learn to remain with my word, even in dryness, you will be ready to enter a deeper journey, learning to recognize my presence not only in gentle emotions, but also in the pauses, the uncertainties, the tears you once thought were signs that I had left you. There, I am still with you. You simply need new eyes to see me. My child, there is a very subtle habit I want to gently touch. You have become accustomed to measuring my love and my presence by how comfortable you feel inside. Whenever a time of prayer takes off, a song stirs your feelings, tears flow, you sigh with relief, the Lord is here. But when your soul feels empty, your prayer dry, your mind heavy as stone, you immediately panic. Has he abandoned me? You do not realize that you are living like someone addicted to spiritual feelings, whereas I have taught, we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Cor 5-7. Yet you want to live by feelings, not by faith. I do not blame you for this. I only want you to see the fragility of a faith built on passing emotion. When your feelings dip, your whole spiritual world seems to collapse with them. I understand why you are so easily drawn into that illusion. This world glorifies what is intense, thrilling, explosive, and without noticing you bring the same measure into your spiritual life, imagining that I only work powerfully when you get goosebumps, when you feel flooded with peace, when every door opens smoothly. Even in the community, sometimes you are taught in a skewed way. A gathering is called a mighty outpouring of grace if it is lively, if many people cry, if there are many testimonies of miracles. But you are rarely reminded that I am just as present on the day you can only sigh and whisper, today I don't feel anything at all, but I am still here with you. When you walk through the dark valley, I have promised, even though I walk through the valley of darkness, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Confer Peace 23-4. It is just that you have grown used to seeking me on the mountaintop of emotion, so you are confused when you must recognize me in the quiet shade of everyday worries. Then gradually, you tie my presence to the seasons when everything is smooth sailing. Work goes well, health is good, relationships are peaceful. You ask, and you receive. When a crisis strikes, a door closes, someone you trusted walks away, you immediately conclude, God is no longer with me, as if I were only a kind of deity who hands out gifts and keeps your life comfortable. You do not see that precisely in the moments you are choked with tears. My invitation resounds the clearest. Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest. Confer Mount 11:28. I did not say, all who are enjoying themselves, come to me. I called my children who are tired, shattered, discouraged. because it is in those times that you are most likely to open your heart. If you only come to me when everything is going well, you are using me as a decorative accessory for a life you already find satisfying, not as your breath and your true resting place. But my child, I do not come to snatch away your joy. I come to teach you a joy that is deeper than passing emotion. I want you to learn to recognize me on those mornings when you wake with an empty heart, in those weary late afternoons after work, in those nights when you cannot sleep because the future seems so dark. When you still choose to whisper, "Father, today I feel nothing, but I believe you are here." You are moving from measuring me by your senses to clinging to me by faith. When you remain faithful to my word, to the Eucharist, to small acts of charity, even when there is no soaring feeling, you are stepping into the realm of maturity. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe, confer J.N. 2029, and that very blessing becomes an invisible hedge that guards your soul. When the winds of life change direction, that faith will keep you from being battered by cruel questions like, "Where is God?" Because deep within, you have grown used to believing, even when you do not feel. I do not demand that you suppress all your emotions, for I am the one who created your heart with its capacity to tremble and be moved. I only ask that you do not use feeling as the sole measure of my presence. Instead of saying, "Today I feel so cold, God must be far from me," you can begin to say, "Today I cannot feel you, but I choose to trust your word more than my own feelings." Each time you do that, you are pulling your heart out of the unstable orbit of emotion and placing it on a firmer foundation, my promise that I am with you always until the end of the age, confer Mount 28-20. From there, you will gradually become less confused by days when your soul is quiet, less afraid when prayers seem to go unanswered in the way you hoped, because you understand, silence does not mean I am absent, and delay does not mean I have turned my back on you. Right there, I want to lead you deeper into a reality you have often avoided, the seasons of waiting and silence, where I do not say much, but I do the deepest work in your soul. There are seasons when, instead of clear answers, all you seem to receive is a stretch of silence that feels like it has no end. You pray, you plead, you weep, then you grow tired, yet heaven seems to remain quiet. Inside you, the questions grow louder and louder. "Father, do you hear me? Do you still care? I see every tear that falls from your eyes. I hear every sigh you swallow back. And I am still there, right in the midst of the silence you think is empty." I do not always answer with bright, spectacular signs. Many times, I choose silence so that your heart will stop chasing after the feeling of being answered, and instead learn to cling to me myself. As it is written, "It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord," confer Lamb 3:26. But for you to experience that as good, you first have to pass through the phase where it feels like punishment. In truth, in that furnace of waiting, I am using a gentle yet persistent fire to burn away the things you could never remove from your own heart by yourself. How many times have you complained to me? "Why are you so slow, Father? Why don't you intervene earlier so I don't have to hurt so much?" You are used to the speed of this world. Everything must be fast, results must be visible, everything must be measurable, so you easily mistake my pace for an unjust delay. Yet you do not see what I am arranging behind the veil. I am adjusting your heart, the hearts of those connected to you, and even the circumstances you are about to walk into, so that when my grace comes, it will not become a burden that crushes you. I have said, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him," confer Ps 37-7. But in your eyes, being still looks like being abandoned, because you cannot bear the feeling of having nothing under your control. You look at the surface and conclude that I am slow. I look at the whole picture and know that if I were to act according to your timing, you would have to pay a price you yourself would not want to pay. That is why I let you remain a little longer in the waiting room, not to torment you, but to gently take from your hands those things which, if you carried them into the future, would wound you even more deeply. I also know that in long seasons of silence, the evil one is always whispering in your ear very reasonable-sounding words. If God loved you, he would have done something by now. If you mattered, you wouldn't have to wait this long. If God were really powerful, he would never have let you end up in this situation. It wants you to forget that a grain of wheat must fall into the earth and die, in darkness and silence, before it can sprout into new life. I have said, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. Confer John 12:24. Waiting is precisely that time of lying in the soil. No stage lights, no applause, no obvious proof that God is working. Only those hidden days when you choose not to let go of my hand. Every time you decide to stand firm just a little longer, to pray a little more, to forgive one more time, even when inside you still feel tangled and confused, the roots of your faith sink deeper into the soil of grace. Once the roots are deep, future storms will be far less able to knock you down. I'm thinking of that day, even when all you can see in your today is nothing but waiting and silence. There are times when what you call nothing is happening is in fact the most important stretch in your journey with me. If I answered you immediately, you might rejoice, be moved, and then return to the same old cycle, with the same old patterns of thought, the same old reactions, the same old wounds that have never been touched at their core. I do not only want to grant you an outward change, I want to heal the very structure within you, the way you think about me, the way you see yourself, the way you face your fear of being abandoned or rejected. Precisely in those nights when you think your prayers have vanished into emptiness, I am patiently touching each hidden scar far more gently than you imagine. We know that in everything God works for the good of those who love him. Confer Rom 8:28. And everything here includes gray, blurry days, long years with no clear answers, hospital corridors, and those times you have to begin again from almost nothing. When you allow me to teach you to believe that, you will stop seeing waiting as a sentence and begin to see it as a hidden training ground where I am strengthening you to stand more firmly. There will come a time when, looking back, you will realize that the very years you thought you were forgotten were in fact the foundation for what you are living now. If you are willing to let me lead you to the very end of this experience of waiting, you will no longer rush to conclude, every time there is silence, that I have gone far from you. Instead, you will begin to notice the small signs, a very gentle peace that reason cannot explain, an endurance you did not possess before, a deep capacity to empathize with others' pain because you have walked through a similar darkness. These unexpected fruits are the mark of the furnace you have passed through with me, even though you did not realize you were being refined. And from that place, you will find it easier to recognize me in very ordinary things. A hug, a word of forgiveness, a tiny act of compassion. For once, you have passed through a silence that did not break you. You will understand more deeply that I do not only wait for you in dazzling miracles, but also hide myself in each small gesture of daily love. There, I will lead you one step further, learning to see my protecting presence not only in church or in moments of fervent prayer, but permeating every choice to love, to forgive, and to be compassionate in the midst of everyday life that you so often underestimate. If you pay close attention, you will see that I rarely show myself in what people call grand or spectacular, but I patiently hide myself in the small things the world considers insignificant. I do not always touch you through a striking miracle or a blazing prophecy. Many times, I stand waiting for you in a held hand, in an apology, in one moment when you restrain yourself from answering with bitterness. When I say, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me. Confer. Mount 25 to 40. I am not speaking about big programs or grand projects, but about gestures that seem trivial in the ordinary flow of a day. You keep trying to find me in sacred places, while I myself step into your life through the eyes of someone who needs to be listened to, through the face of someone you want to avoid because they once hurt you. If you brush aside those moments and say, it's nothing, just a small thing, you unknowingly turn your back on the very place where I am standing with open arms waiting for you. And then you say, I don't see God anywhere, even though I have passed through your life countless times in the form of a concrete opportunity to love. My child, my place of protection is not only an invisible circle around you when you pray, but also the atmosphere you create each time you choose love instead of withdrawing into yourself. I know that, in this world, loving can sometimes look like choosing to lose. Good people are taken advantage of. Sincere people are looked down upon. Gentle people are considered weak. But you forget that when I teach, I give you a new commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Confer. J.N. 13:34. I am not throwing you into a battlefield empty-handed. I am placing within your heart a strength that darkness does not know how to handle. Every time you choose to remain gentle when you could have exploded in anger, to listen when you could have dismissed, to stay faithful when you could have quit, you are building around yourself a hedge that is soft yet unshakable, the hedge of love. Love covers a multitude of sins. Confer. 1 pint, 4 to 8. And when you let love operate in your concrete relationships, it not only covers old wounds, but also keeps new arrows from piercing as deeply into your heart as before. You begin to notice that love does not make you less protected. On the contrary, it makes your soul less fragile before praise or criticism, acceptance or rejection from others. Not only love, but forgiveness is also a place where I hide myself very deeply, a place you are often afraid to touch. I hear so clearly the words you murmur to yourself. How can I forgive? I'm not a saint. If I forgive, doesn't that mean what they did to me was nothing? If I forgive and they hurt me again, then what? I understand your fear, because forgiveness always feels like opening the door to a room full of memories you would only rather keep locked. But when I teach you to pray, forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors, confer Mount 6:12, I am not forcing you into some unfair contract. I am simply showing you a very real principle. If you keep clutching the chain of resentment in your hands, your own wrists will be the first to bleed. When you begin to choose forgiveness, not by feeling, but by decision, Father, I hand over to you the right to judge this person, that chain begins to loosen, not so that the one who hurt you can escape, but so that you can be the first to step out of the prison you yourself have built. Each time you forgive someone a little more, you move closer to my safe place, where the poison of hurt no longer dictates your every thought and reaction, as it once did. I do not take lightly what you have gone through. I know every blade of the knife of words, of attitudes, of neglect that you have borne. Precisely because of that, I do not push you to forgive immediately and be done with it, but I beg you not to bolt shut the door of your heart. You can begin with a very weak prayer. Father, I don't want to forgive yet, but I also don't want to carry this forever. Please help me take it one small step at a time. When you are that honest, you are opening a narrow crack through which light can slip in, and I will slowly touch the hardest, most rigid places in you. I have told you, for if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. Confer. Mount 6:14. not to add more conditions to my mercy, but to remind you that forgiveness is the only path that will set you free from the endless cycle of revenge and bitterness. In that process, you will be surprised to find that you yourself are being healed. Your heart grows lighter, your sleep less restless. The old memories remain but no longer strangle you as before. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it removes the power of the past over your present and your future. And then, from love and forgiveness, I lead you into another area of this place of protection: compassion. The world teaches you to harden yourself so you will not be hurt, but I invite you to soften in the one place that matters, to soften before the pain of others. When you pause to listen to the story of someone in crisis, when you quietly help without asking to be noticed, when you hold someone who is sobbing without trying to fix them right away, you are lending me your hands, your eyes, the very rhythm of your heart. I have said, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Confer. LK 636, which means that every time you are moved with compassion, you become a little more like me, and wherever I am present, their darkness gradually loses its footing. Even if, on the outside, circumstances do not change immediately, the atmosphere around you is no longer the same. It carries less of the heavy smell of competition, less of the strain of everyone needing to be right, less of the cutting edge of people trying to protect themselves by hurting others more. And precisely when you allow love, forgiveness, and compassion to seep into every cell of your daily life, you will begin to realize that I am covering you in a very strange way, not by removing every scratch, but by making sure that those collisions no longer have the power to tear you apart as before. From then on, even as you walk into seasons of trial, you will be slower to conclude that darkness has won, because deep inside you know you are standing within a very different kind of shelter. The shelter of those who dare to love, dare to forgive, and dare to be moved to mercy, even while the sky is still overcast. Perhaps, deep down, you still nurture a very simple dream, that if you live, well, believe in God and do what is right, then your life ought to be smoother than it is now. Every time a storm breaks over you, the question bursts from your lips, why did you let this happen to me? As though suffering were proof that I have gone far away. Yet my Son has spoken plainly, in the world you will have trouble, but take courage. I have overcome the world. Confer. JN 1633. You hear that sentence many times, but in your heart you quietly add another clause. But I don't want any trouble at all. I do not promise you a road without bumps. I only promise that every pothole, every crack, every dark bend remains within my line of sight. My protection is not a shatterproof glass that keeps you from every blow. It is the hand that is always ready to grasp you whenever your foot slips, not allowing any fall to become a chasm that swallows you whole. Darkness may temporarily block your view, but it has no right to write the final chapter of your story as long as you keep clinging to me. Try to remember the times you have walked through fire. You were sure you would be burned to ashes, and yet, in a way you still cannot explain, you are still standing today. It is not because you endure hardship better than others, but because there was one who walked in the fire with you. Just as I once stood in the furnace with the 3 young men of old, so that the flames burned only their ropes and did not consume them. Conferred in 3. I have also promised, when you pass through waters, I will be with you. When you walk through fire, you shall not be burned. Confer. Is 43-2, which means I never said you would never have to pass through waters or walk through fire. I only guarantee that these things will not have the last word over your life. Many times, it is precisely in those scorching seasons that I slowly burn away illusions, attachments, and pride that you cannot bring yourself to let go of. You step out of those times with a few scars, but also with different eyes, less naive, less given to illusion or self-confidence, yet deeper in the conviction that if those events did not break you, It is because I held you back from breaking. Hardship does not prove that I am absent. Often it is the very place where you see most clearly how I have intervened, so that you are hurt but not crushed, weakened but not destroyed. I also see the times you are tempted to think, if God truly protected me, He should have taken all these trials away. But you forget that I am the Father who knows exactly how much each child can bear, and I do not allow anything to go beyond your strength if you hold my hand. God is faithful. He will not let you be tested beyond your strength, but with the test will also provide the way out. Confer 1 Cor 10:13. That way out is not always me lifting you out of the situation, but often me giving you a new heart, strong enough to walk through it without losing yourself. Like a vine grower who prunes his branches so that they may bear more fruit, I also cut away what you thought was security, but was in fact making your soul barren. Every branch that does bear fruit He prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Confer Jan 15:2. Pruning always hurts, but it is not the pain of punishment, it is the pain of surgery. The scalpel is not an enemy, it is an instrument to save you from something far more dangerous if left untouched. When you allow me to touch those places, trial, instead of remaining a curse, gradually becomes material for me to build within you a new person, deeper, more steadfast, more free from the things that once held you bound. Of course, in the midst of the storm, it is hard for you to see any meaning or fruit. I do not blame you for that weariness. I only ask you not to rush to conclude that everything is ruined just because the present is so dark. Remember, Paul wrote, the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed in us. Confer Rom 8:18. Those words are not reserved only for martyrs and saints, but also for ordinary children like you who are wrestling with illness, debt, breakdowns, and failure. I do not look at your story only on today's page, but from the first page to the last, and I know how to turn even the chapters you would like to tear out into an essential part of the book. Right now you may see only jumbled lines, scribbles and erasures, pages blurred with tears, but as I keep writing with you, there will come a time when those very pages make our story, yours and mine, the most moving. For true protection is not erasing every painful line, but ensuring that no line of pain is wasted, and that not a single tear falls without meaning before me. One day, when you sit down and look back over the road you have traveled, you will realize you have been kept far more than you were ever abandoned. You will see clearly the times when you were about to turn into a dead end, but by chance, a door closed. The times you thought you would be crushed, but for some reason, you still had the strength to stand. The relationships you thought were lost completely, but in the end gave you a heart that knows how to sympathize more deeply. Then you will understand what I meant when I promised, in everything God works for the good of those who love Him. Confer Rom 8:28. Not that everything is pleasant, but that everything can be kneaded by me into something good for your soul. And beyond anything you may see in this life, there is one promise I will never withdraw. God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. Death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more. Confer Rev 21:4. That is the final destination of the protection I give you. Not merely getting through a few passing storms, but finishing the journey to the day when darkness completely loses its voice, and the story between you and me closes in the light, with pages on which even you will have to admit, if it had not been for those chapters that seemed sure to end in ruin, I might never have known the Father as deeply as I do now. My child, I know that in your heart you have often drawn up very private calculations. On the days when your heart feels light and your work runs smoothly, you think, God is smiling at me. But when everything becomes heavy, when plans collapse, when you are misunderstood or lose out, you quietly write a question mark inside. I wonder if the Father is still near. I see the way you secretly measure me by your own emotions, and then use outward results to decide whether I am still gentle and kind. I do not scold you for those fragile moments, but I want you to slow down and understand that my tenderness is not measured by how many clashes you avoid, and my presence is not reduced each time your tears fall. If you trust me only when things are going well, you will easily stumble when the road grows rough. But when you learn to trust me, even along the stony stretches, then you step into a much deeper kind of safety. The safety of a child who knows they belong to their father, whether the sky is clear or stormy. There are experiences that feel like fire to you. They burn, they frighten you, they make you feel as though you are being punished. But from my side, I look at the fire with different eyes. The flame I allow to pass through your life is not a fire of destruction, but the fire of a refining furnace where impurities are burned away so that gold may become pure. You tend to see only what is singed, while I see what is being refined. I understand your fear when everything around you is shaking, when familiar supports are removed, when relationships you thought would be forever suddenly become distant. But my child, it is precisely when the ground under your feet trembles that you begin to ask, what is my real foundation? Have you built your life on other people's affection, on your achievements, on your image in the eyes of others, or on my word and my faithfulness? When I let the winds rise, it is not to overthrow you, but to show you what can truly hold you up, and what, though seemingly solid, is only fine sand. In your eyes, the storm is a threat. In mine, it is sometimes the wind that pushes you away from false oases and closer to the shore where I am waiting for you. Many times you ask me to take the storm away, while I choose instead to sit with you in the rocking boat. You want me to silence the waves. I want to teach you to trust that even while the waves keep rolling, your boat cannot sink as long as I am there. There are moments when I truly have calmed the sea, but there are also times when I simply lay my hand on your shoulder and speak to the depths of your heart. Do not be afraid. I will not abandon you. My protection does not always mean stopping every upheaval. Often it is shown in the fact that I do not allow any upheaval to steal your dignity, your calling, or your soul. There may come a point when the only thing you have left is a faint breath whispering my name in the night, but that weak whisper is already proof that I have kept your faith from being extinguished. You think you have come to the end of your strength, but if you look back, you will realize, if I had not been silently upholding you in many hidden ways, you would not even have enough strength left to complain, to question me. Even your most troubled questions are a sign that the flame in you has not gone out, and I cherish even the moments when you come to me with empty hands and a heart full of doubts. You often tend to look for me in certain specific places, in the church, in fervent times of prayer, in moments when you can feel grace. Those places are precious, and I have waited for you there so many times, but if you confine me only to spaces labeled sacred, you will miss countless appointments I have quietly prepared for you throughout the day. I am not imprisoned within walls, nor limited by rituals, even though I am the one who makes those things holy. I choose to remain with you in the little kitchen when you stay up late to care for a sick loved one, on the crowded bus when you silently give up your seat to a stranger, in the stifling office when you decide not to win by scheming. I am present in the laughter of those you support simply by being there, in the grateful eyes of someone you listen to with your full attention. In the moment you stop your hand and do not send a cutting message you could easily justify. All those unnoticed moments that no one records, I see them all, and it is there that I am pitching my tent in your life. When compassion inside you is stirred, when you cannot remain unmoved before someone suffering, do not be too quick to think it is just weakness. It is the mark I engraved on your heart from the very beginning, the ability to be moved by pain, the inability to turn your face away as if you saw nothing, the willingness to let your heart be inconvenienced by another's tears. Every time you hear a hidden groan and choose to draw near, you have unknowingly stepped into the sphere of my action, for I always stand beside the little ones, the weary ones, those who no longer have the strength to defend themselves. Perhaps you can only do something very small. Buy someone a simple meal. Make a phone call in the middle of the night to ask how they are. Send a short message of encouragement when you feel you have nothing lofty to say. Yet from my point of view, those small actions carry the weight of foundation stones in the building of your life. They create around you a different kind of atmosphere, one in which the darkness of selfishness, indifference, and coldness finds far less place to cling. Forgiveness also lies on that same path, even though it is often the hardest stretch to swallow. I know exactly every cut that others have left in you, the humiliating words, the half-hearted attitudes, the times you were abandoned at the very moment you needed someone most. I do not deny that pain, nor do I make light of it. I do not say to you, just let it go, it's nothing, because I know that for you, many things are far from small matters. But precisely because I see it all, I earnestly invite you to slowly let go of the right to condemn from your own hands. When you cling tightly to that inner invoice, insisting the other must pay in full, you are the one who, day after day, keeps reminding yourself of the old wound, making it bleed again and again instead of heal. And when you tremble and open your lips to say, "Father, I do not have the strength to forgive, but I hand over to you the right to deal with this story," that is the moment you place that invoice into my hands. I do not throw it away. I keep it within my just heart, and at the same time I slowly loosen the rope that is binding you yourself. Forgiveness does not erase memory, but it gradually separates memory from the poison that haunts you, binds you, and paralyzes you. Every time you decide not to drag up another's fault just to shame them, not to use the past to control the present, you are allowing me to step a little deeper into those rooms you once locked tight. Your heart does not change in a single night, but each small choice in silence is like a stroke of the hoe loosening hardened soil so that the seeds of peace may find ground to take root. You will notice that you sleep more soundly, that your reactions slow down in the face of insult, that you become less quick to read malice into everything the other person does. This is not because you have suddenly become extraordinarily holy, but because I am quietly planting within you a new heart, a heart that feels compassion more than it passes judgment. In that atmosphere, your soul is shielded from many invisible arrows, the overinterpretations, the suspicions, the grim scenarios your imagination so often paints until you are exhausted by your own thoughts. Holiness is not found only in avoiding evil, but also in daring to do good in the concrete circumstances of your life. You may not be able to accomplish great deeds, to change the world, to reach tens of thousands of people, but you can choose not to make life harder for the person right beside you, not to add one more harsh word to an atmosphere already worn out, not to pour more oil on arguments that are going nowhere. Every time you deliberately stop, refuse to pass on a rumor, refuse to share mocking content that tears someone down, you quietly raise a small wall against the wild flood flowing through so many channels. I stand there, within that decision of yours, and that very decision protects you from becoming an unconscious instrument of the darkness. You dwell in a zone of peace, not because everyone around you is good, but because you have chosen not to let their brokenness drag you down into the same mud. Do not look down on those times when you fall and then get back up. I am not disappointed by your moments of weakness. What grieves me more is when, after stumbling, you decide to stay on the ground, telling yourself, "This is just how bad I am," and so you stop trying. Each time you come back, each time you whisper to me, however softly, "I am sorry, please let me begin again." Heaven does not remain silent. On the contrary, joy bursts forth because there is still a child who wants to return. In those returns, you are covered by a very special kind of shelter, the covering of mercy. Mercy does not abolish right and wrong, but it protects you from the voice of self-condemnation, from the dark thoughts that whisper that you no longer have any worth. When you allow me to forgive you, you are also learning to treat yourself with the patience I show you. In that gaze, even the cracks in your life can become places where light slips through, shining out for others to see that no season of darkness has enough power to speak the final word while I am still writing. And in this way, you will gradually come to understand more deeply that my protection does not mean you will avoid every cut, but that no wound will ever be allowed to define you. I do not promise to keep your garment forever spotless and free of dust from the road, but I do promise that no one will be allowed to tear from your shoulders the robe that marks you as my child. I do not promise that you will always be praised, understood, and welcomed, but I affirm that your value does not depend on any of those things. I do not say you will walk the whole journey without once stumbling, but I assure you that my hand is always reaching out, and as long as you still want to grasp it, no abyss can claim. This one belongs to me now. Darkness may whisper, may threaten, may wear you out, but it has no right to put a full stop to the story between you and me. Every small choice of love, every trembling act of forgiveness, every hidden gesture of compassion is contributing to one single answer you give me. Even though I do not yet understand everything, I still choose to stand on the side of the Father. And as long as that answer continues to be repeated in your heart, however faintly, my protection continues to cover you, leading you through each season, until the day you look back and quietly admit, it was precisely the pages you once wanted to tear out that became the places where you touched and knew the Father most deeply, and discovered that darkness has never been the one to write the final word over your life. You often think that I am only near when your life is radiant, when your prayers are answered as you wish, when everything is bright and easy to understand. But it is precisely in the darker stretches of your life, where you can no longer see the path clearly, that I kneel very close beside you. Daylight allows you to see what is outside. Deep night opens up another kind of vision, where you can no longer cling to what you can control, but must lean entirely on the one who is holding your hand. You imagine yourself alone in rooms where only the clock is ticking, in nights when your eyes stay wide open because of worry, in those moments when you hide everything from everyone and dare to cry only into your pillow. But my child, I do not stand outside the door, waiting for morning to come before I enter. I sit by your bed, silent, without display, simply so you do not have to endure the darkness alone. I have already shown you this in my only begotten Son. He, too, passed through a lonely, shame-filled Friday night before the dawn of resurrection broke. When my son cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" I was still there, silent, yet not turning my face away. Therefore, when you cannot feel me, it does not mean I have withdrawn. It may be precisely the time when I am holding you closer than on the days when you are carefree. You carry in your heart many questions you do not dare to voice, for fear of losing your faith. If you are good, why must I walk this road? If you are provident, why are these things still happening? I hear it all, I understand it all, and I am not irritated by those doubts. It was I who placed in your heart the desire to live a meaningful life, to be safe, to be loved. I have never forbidden you to be afraid or weak, but I want you to know that my protection does not work by erasing every risk, but by being present right in the midst of what you fear. When you feel yourself collapsing, convinced you cannot get back up, it is I who keep your soul from shattering completely. When you cannot understand why you are still standing after so many blows, the answer is very simple. Because I have not let you go. I have promised. I will not leave you orphaned. I will not leave you abandoned. I will not leave you alone and forsaken. Confer. JN 14:18. And I do not take that word back, even when your life looks nothing like the beautiful script you once imagined. Every time you think, surely this time I will not make it through, and yet you still find yourself breathing, still able to take another step, that is the sign that I have intervened far more than you realized. Your greatest fear is often not the pain of the present but the fog of tomorrow. You ask yourself, what will become of me? How will I survive? Who will be by my side? What if things get even worse? Your mind runs ahead through countless bad scenarios until you are exhausted, even though nothing has actually happened yet. You forget that I hold all of time in my hand. Your yesterday, with its joys and sorrows, I have already walked through. Your today, with its confusion, I am standing in right now. Your tomorrow, with all that you do not yet know, I am already there before you set foot into it. I am not only the one who begins, but also the one who completes. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the one who saw your whole journey long before you learned to name your own fears. You see the future as a thick mist. I see it as a finished painting. And in that painting, I do not erase every dark shade, but I arrange them in such a way that, in the end, the light will stand out more brightly, more deeply, more truly. I do not require you to know every detail in advance. I simply invite you to learn a new rhythm of life, walking step by step with me. The world teaches you that safety means having a 5-year or 10-year plan in your hands, controlling every variable. But I teach you a different kind of safety, the safety of one who holds the hand of the one who knows the road perfectly, even when that person sees only one step ahead. Do you remember my people in the desert? I did not allow them to store up manna for a whole month, each day. I gave them enough for that day. It was not because I am stingy, but because I wanted them to learn to trust from day to day. Give us this day our daily bread, Mot 6:11, is not only a request for food, but also a plea for the grace to live one day at a time, and then another, and another. You do not have to carry the whole future on your shoulders today. You only need to place this day in my hands, and tomorrow, when it comes, you will do the same once more. In that rhythm, you will feel your heart grow lighter, because you no longer clutch a huge block of time that was never yours to control. I know the world around you never stops telling you that you must cling tightly, accumulate as much as you can, gather enough of everything to secure yourself. If you do not hold on, who will hold for you? If you do not fight, you will lose. If you are not shrewd, others will trample you. Those sayings sound very realistic, so much so that you sometimes forget that. My gospel operates on a different logic. I do not tell you to live carelessly or irresponsibly, but I remind you that what truly endures forever is not what you lock in your fist, but what you dare to give away out of love. A timely word of encouragement, a little time you spend listening to another, a small sum you share with someone in need, a decision not to retaliate even when you have every reason to do so. None of these disappear into thin air. They enter another's heart. They enter your own heart. They enter the history of salvation like quiet seeds. I see every single seed. I remember every single gesture, and not one of them falls into the abyss of meaninglessness. You often think that your small choices cannot change anything in a world so vast. But, my child, every loving decision you make is a reflection of me within you. I am love. So wherever there is even a little sincere love, there are traces of me. When you hold someone who is trembling in a hospital, when you patiently care for a sick relative, when you accept sacrificing your time, your preferences, your comfort, so that someone else can be more at peace. That is when my image in you shines forth. Whether you are aware of it or not, St. Paul wrote, so faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. Confer 1 Cor 13:13. Everything will pass away, work, achievements, the names that are remembered or forgotten, but every genuine act of love, however small, carries an eternal substance. It is not worn down by time. It is not forgotten in my realm. It becomes an inseparable part of who you are for all eternity. When I look at you, I do not see only the times you fall, the moments of weakness, the words of complaint. I also see the times you quietly choose the good when no one is watching. There are mornings when you are exhausted, yet you still kneel and whisper, I entrust this day to you, Father. There are nights when you feel you are about to collapse, yet you still try not to pour your anger onto the innocent. There are moments when you stand between two choices, on one side what is convenient for yourself, on the other what is right for someone else, and you choose the side that costs you more. In such moments, heaven is not silent, my child. My angels rejoice. My heart grows warm because I see the likeness of my Son in you. Then my protection is not only a wall around you on the outside, but a strength from within, helping you not to let adversity twist you into someone hard, cold, and numb. You may be wounded, but you do not become one who wounds others in order to protect yourself. You may experience loss, but you do not lose what is most precious, your capacity to love and to trust. I know there are moments when all these words sound like distant theory, especially when you have just walked out of a funeral, a farewell, a betrayal, a heavy failure. In those times, you feel only one thing: pain. I do not ask you to pretend to be strong, to act as if you are fine. I allow you to weep. I allow you to be confused. I allow you to fall silent, unable to say a single word. Scripture has spoken of many of my children like that. Some beat their breasts, some tore their garments, some sat in ashes. I did not cast them out of my plan because of those very human reactions. What I desire from you is not a face without emotion, but that, in and through all your emotions, you can still breathe a quiet prayer. I don't understand, but I will not leave you. When you say that, even with a trembling voice, all heaven shudders, for it is the voice of a mature faith, a faith that does not need to see, does not need to touch, does not demand to be proven by instant miracles, but only needs to know that its Father is there. Do you see that precisely in trials the things I have placed in your heart become clearer than ever? Hope, if it is trained only on days all painted in rosy colors, will be very shallow. Hope that has passed through storms grows deep roots. When you still believe that goodness is stronger than evil, that light will ultimately conquer darkness, even when everything before your eyes seems to say the opposite, that is when your hope touches my hope. I am never pessimistic about you, about the world, about the story you are living. I see every tear, every ruin, every sin, but I also see every possibility of healing, of restoration, of making all things new. When you agree to look at your life with that gaze, you step into a strange kind of safety. Not safety because nothing bad ever happens, but safety because you know that no misfortune can leave me helpless. I can reweave every tangled thread, every torn piece of cloth, slowly creating a pattern that you cannot yet fully read. Therefore, do not measure my protection by how smoothly your life seems to go. If you measure it that way, you will always end up disappointed. Look somewhere else. After each upheaval, what has become of your heart? Have you grown harder or more compassionate? Have you shut down or learned how to open up in the right places? Have you been swallowed up by hatred, or have you learned to hand me the right to judge so that your heart may be free? If you pay attention, you will see that many trials have made you deeper, more mature, more authentic. They have cut from you what is meaningless and preserved what is purest. That is how I protect you from a life that is only a beautiful shell but empty within. I want you to become a person who knows how to love, to believe, to hope, to the very end. And these three are not born in a comfortable laboratory, but are forged in the wind, in the rain. In those moments when you thought, this really is the end, and yet it was not. My beloved child, I tell you all this not so that you strain yourself to become a hero of faith, but so that you no longer live in the illusion that safety means never being hurt. I invite you into another kind of safety, safety in my arms, even when your tears are still wet. I am there on the mountaintops of your joy, and I am also there in the deep valleys where you are worn out. I walk with you in each loving choice, in every act of forgiveness, in every beat of compassion that makes you pause because of another's pain. I am present in each step you take through trials, not allowing the darkness to claim the right to end your story. As long as you let me hold your hand, no power but me can write the final full stop over your life. And when the last page is turned, you will look back, full of amazement, and see that the very bends in the road you thought pushed you out of, my arms were the places where you were carried the most. Then you will fully understand what I can now only whisper to you in faith. Every act you entrusted in love, every hope you kept in the dark, every time you clung to me instead of letting go, all of it has been and is being kept by me, not only for this life, but for eternity, where there will be no more tears, no more fear, only love, which you and I will share forever, you know. There will be stretches of the journey when every word you utter seems to dissolve into empty space, without any clear reply. You kneel, you beg, you repeat the same plea to the point that even you are tired of hearing it, and yet the scene before you is unchanged. The door is still closed, the illness is not healed, the one you love has not returned, the finances are still tight. In those moments, the prolonged silence feels like a thick, high, cold wall, and you feel as if you are talking to four dead walls rather than to a living God. I see very clearly the moment you stand up after prayer with your heart heavier than when you began. I hear even the words you dare not say aloud. Maybe you don't hear. Maybe I don't matter to you. It is precisely in that moment that I bend closer to you than ever, not to reproach you, but to whisper that you are confusing my silence with my absence. I am not playing hide and seek with you to test your patience for sport. I am silent because there are things I can only do in your life when every other noise, even the noise of your own expectations and imaginings, is forced to grow quiet. From where you stand, delay is always a kind of wound. You live in a world where everything must be right away, messages answered at once, orders delivered the same day, problems solved quickly so as not to waste time. Unconsciously, you carry that same rhythm into your relationship with me. You pray, and in your heart, you set a deadline, even if you never say it out loud. If, within the time frame you secretly decide nothing has happened the way you wanted, you shrink back into disappointment, even suspicion. Have you failed to keep your word? But, my child, I am not a machine for fulfilling wishes, ready for you to push a button and receive a result. I am a father. A father knows there are things which, if given too soon, cease to be gifts and become burdens. There are doors which, if opened at the right time, will lead you into the light, but if flung open when your inner strength is not ready, can become the entrance to collapse. And because I can see farther than your eyes can, there are things you passionately demand that I can only answer with a painful silence, not because I do not want to give, but because I know they will not nourish your soul in the way you imagine. Sometimes you come to me with a very detailed list. It must be this way, and that way, within this time, in that manner. Then you label everything a legitimate request, and treat it as a kind of right I am obliged to fulfill, to prove that I love you. You say, I'm only asking for a bit of peace, but peace in your mind means that no one opposes you. There is no financial hardship, no family conflict, no illness tormenting you. I, however, understand peace on another level. It is the steadfastness of the heart in the midst of countless unresolved things. It is the ability to stand upright in a storm, not because the wind has stopped blowing, but because your roots have sunk deep in me. When you ask me for joy, you often picture excitement, success, everything going smoothly, people understanding and supporting you. But I want to give you another kind of joy, a joy not dependent on outcomes, a quiet joy that begins in knowing you are loved, even when there is no external sign to prove it. To give you these gifts, I sometimes must say no or not yet to the things you believe are best for you. I am not rejecting your desires. I am trying to lead you out of the endless loop of only when everything goes my way will I feel that you truly protect me. Think about it. If every prayer of yours were answered exactly as you imagined, what sort of person would you become? At first you might be moved, grateful, full of praise, but very quickly you would learn to treat me as a special sponsor for all your projects. You would rush faster, risk more, demand more, because deep down you would assume you had a divine insurance policy that never refuses to sign. One day, when you are dragged down by the very things you asked for, you will turn to blame me. Why did you allow this? In truth, many times I wanted to stop it at the beginning, but you were determined. You argued with all kinds of reasons, even using my name to convince yourself. I respect your freedom. I do not treat you as a puppet. But every time I see that what you want will cause your soul to shrivel, to grow more selfish and closed, I will fight to the last moment in silence. I fight by delaying. I fight by arranging circumstances so that you cannot go further into that dead end. You call that God isn't helping at all, while I call it, I am trying to keep you from harming yourself even more. I know this is hard to accept when you are in the eye of the storm. From where you stand, my reasons do not soothe the pain of the present. You need the sick to be healed, the debt to be paid, a door of employment to open, a concrete reconciliation to happen, and I speak to you of invisible values, of inner growth, of future glory. It sounds as if I am speaking another language. But, my child, these two things do not exclude each other. I still care deeply about your very concrete needs. I still listen to every sigh of your heart. I simply refuse to be locked into the mold you have drawn. When you ask me to resolve a situation, I can intervene in countless ways, sometimes by a clear miracle, sometimes by an unexpected opportunity, and many times by a new capacity to endure that you never knew you had. There are times when I do not change the circumstances, but I change you. I take from you the thin, fragile heart that breaks so easily, and I place within you a heart that knows how to trust more, to surrender more, to strain less, to control everything. In that process, my silence is not an empty void, but a workspace. I am shaping you, sowing new intuitions within you, slowly loosening from your hands those things you have gripped so tightly for so long that you have come to think they are your very self. Here is the English translation, arranged in paragraphs as requested. There are things I am doing for you that lie beyond your ability to see. You can only make out a few steps ahead. I see the whole road. You grow frustrated because this door has closed, but I am slowly opening another path in a direction you have not yet turned toward. You are upset because this person does not change the way you hope, but I am patiently training your heart to love unconditionally, while at the same time touching that person's history, character, and wounds according to a very particular rhythm. And if you could witness each step, you would have to exclaim, "So, Father, you have been doing far more than I imagined." You feel cornered because everything that seems important to you appears to be going nowhere. Yet I am laying the foundation for something that cannot be stolen from you. A mature faith, a hope not easily blown away by the winds of life, a love not crushed by selfishness. Such things are not built in a night, nor born from prayers that are answered in an instant. They grow in those nights when you hold on to me with one simple sentence: I don't understand, but I will not leave you. Every time you choose to remain instead of giving up, to stay instead of turning your back, another brick is set into the inner house that you and I are building together. I do not dismiss your small and concrete dreams: a peaceful home, a stable job, health enough that you do not have to live in hospitals, relationships that are not torn apart by misunderstanding. I cherish them all. But I also desire for you another thing that you yourself, if you are honest, are searching for. You want to live a life that is not meaningless, a life in which no matter how many upheavals you go through, you can still say, everything may be taken away, but there is something within me that remains untouched. That is the treasure I am leading you toward, a treasure that cannot be stolen, that does not rust, that does not evaporate with every fickle change of circumstance. That treasure is none other than myself, the relationship between you and me, the experience of knowing that you belong, that you are upheld, that your hand is being held in every situation. In order to bring you there, I must allow some of the things you see as the only proof of my love, success, health, favorable conditions to be shaken for a time, so that you may discover that even when those things crack, one reality still stands firm: I do not change my heart toward you. When you begin to believe that, not only with your mind but with your experience, you will step into a new freedom, freedom in the face of loss, freedom in the face of others' judgments, freedom in the face of the comparisons that have tormented you for so long. You will ask, so what should I do when my prayer is not answered in the way I want? I will answer gently, keep on speaking to me, but let your prayer grow up with you. You may begin with, Father, please grant me this, but add to it a silence, and then continue. If this does not draw me closer to you, then please do not give it to me according to my will, but please do not abandon me in the days when I must wait. When you dare to speak like that, you are opening the door for me to act beyond the plan you have drawn, and you are allowing me both to listen to your desires and to teach you to discern what truly makes your soul grow. You may keep knocking, keep seeking, keep calling, but while you wait, let me use that very stretch of time to pour into your heart a new kind of peace, another kind of joy you have never tasted. It is a peace that does not depend on whether the door opens exactly as you imagined. It is the joy of the child who knows they do not have to walk alone, even when the road ahead is still dim. I do not blame you for having been angry, for sulking, for asking, "Where are you, Father?" I gather up all those questions. I receive even the sighs you think are useless. What I hope is that each time you go through a season of silence, you will not stop at resentment, but gradually dare to take one small step toward me, the step of honesty, the step of daring to speak your disappointment without walking away, the step of entrusting to me not only your petitions but also your shattered expectations. In my hands, no season of waiting is meaningless, no tear is forgotten, no plea is considered annoying. There are things I will answer exactly as you hope. There are things I will redirect, and there are things I will leave unchanged until the very end of your life. Yet in every script I have only one aim, that you may not lose your soul amid the 1,000 ups and downs of life, that one day, when you stand before me, you can say, I have walked the whole way, and I am no longer afraid, because I know you were there. Even when I thought I had been abandoned, then you will understand more deeply what I am now trying to say to you, in the midst of silence. I do not exist to run after every demand of yours. I come to awaken you to live for what is eternal, to give you a peace no power can take away, a joy no longer imprisoned by passing gains and losses, and a treasure no thief can touch. That treasure is myself, the one who is always beside you, even when you hear nothing but the beating of your own heart in the dark. My child, when you return to me, do not bring the burden of having to say it right, pray beautifully, or present yourself as worthy. I do not need your performance, I need your presence. What I look for in you is not perfectly polished phrases, but a heart that dares to speak what it is carrying. Fear, shame, anger, even the confusion you think would be disrespectful if said to God. You may whisper to me, I'm fed up, I'm tired, I'm doubting. I have no idea what you are doing, and I will not step even half a pace farther away from you because of it. I have seen through you long before you open your mouth, so your prayer is not a report to brief me on the situation. It is a bridge for you to step toward me, to stop running away from yourself. You do not need to put makeup on your soul before drawing near to me. You only need enough courage to bring me your real face, even when it is full of wrinkles and tears and the marks you feel most ashamed of. I am the one who wipes clean, heals, and makes all things new, not a judge sitting there waiting to criticize you because you are not clean enough. Do not wait until your heart is less sinful, your life less tangled, your past less torn, before you come. If you could untangle yourself from that mess, you would not need a savior. I do not want you to step toward me as a flawless saint. I long for you to run to me as a child who dares to admit, I am lost. I have broken things. I cannot save myself. I have said, those who are healthy do not need a physician. The sick do, and yet how many times have you tried to act fine, to appear strong, to show that you can get over it on your own, only to collapse afterward in some hidden corner where no one sees you. I do not need you to be strong in order to be worthy of me. I myself am your strength when you are at your weakest. I do not tell you to wash yourself clean before you dare step into the house. I open the front door so that you, with all the dust on your clothes, the sweat on your body, the chaos in your mind, may find a place of true rest. Even when you feel like a failure, like the one who has disappointed the Father, I still look at you as my beloved child, irreplaceable and never crossed out. Try speaking with me as you would confide in a very close friend whom you trust will not leave you even after seeing all your dark corners. You can tell me about a day that seemed ordinary, yet was full of small cuts. A careless word someone tossed out that hurt you. A message left unanswered that made you feel unimportant. A failure you had to laugh off. I listen to it all. I do not mock you. I do not compare your pain with anyone else's. I do not tell you to stop being dramatic. I will gently remind you that your worth does not lie in today's results, nor in others' opinions, nor in what you can or cannot accomplish. Your worth flows from the fact that you belong to me, and no event, no insult, no mistake can strip you of that truth. When you look back on your day under my gaze, you will see that even what you call trivial is cherished by me. A moment when you tried to smile instead of speaking a biting word. A time you patiently listened instead of scrolling your phone. A moment you folded your hands to pray for someone you do not like. Those tiny seeds I quietly plant in your heart so that in due time they may become shade for you and for those you meet. I also want you to learn again how to look at the world around you in a different light. Do not seek me only in church, before an altar, amid music and hymns. I am there, but I am not confined by those four walls. Each morning when you open your eyes and realize you still have breath, that is already a gift. Every ray of sunlight through the window, every gentle breeze, every time you look up at the sky, whether it is gray or clear, is my whisper. Your Father is still here, still keeping you. The sudden laughter of a child on your way to work, the lively chatter of your family at the table, the peaceful silence of your room after you switch off the light, all of these can become places of encounter with me if you will slow down a little and let your heart open. I know life makes you frantic, your eyes pulled to screens, your ears besieged by news, music, and noise. That is why I all the more gently send you small signs, hoping you will notice that wherever you are, I pass by that place every day. I do not always come with a thrill of emotion. Often I come as a very quiet peace, just enough to keep you from collapsing. Even the wounds you want to forget can become a place where I dwell. I take no pleasure in your pain, but I will not let your suffering become meaningless. Every time your heart aches because of an old memory, a name, a place, it is not only a trace of a wound, but also proof that your heart has not turned to stone. It is still sensitive, still capable of trembling at things that once mattered. I do not want you to freeze your heart so that it won't hurt anymore, because a frozen heart can no longer love. I want to walk with you into that room of memories, to tidy every corner and wipe every stain, instead of watching you lock the door and live outside as though that room did not exist. When you allow me to go with you, your tears are no longer evidence of weakness, but become the water that washes the dust from your cuts so they can heal more cleanly. There are pains that will not disappear entirely, but they can be transformed, from being a thorn that pierces your heart each time it is touched into a scar that reminds you of my faithfulness, of the times you thought you would not make it, yet you are still standing here. And as you dare to live honestly with me like that, you will gradually learn to be true to yourself and to others. You will feel less need to wear the masks of strong, cheerful, it's fine before everyone, because you know there is a place where you can set them down without being judged. You will be less harsh with those around you, because you remember how much mercy you yourself have received. You will begin to notice that heaven is not only some faraway place after death, but is already budding in the most ordinary moments. A sincere hug, a simple meal filled with laughter, an afternoon when you sit quietly with me without needing many words. I have said, the kingdom of God is among you, but your eyes have been too busy chasing grand things to notice the tiny seeds of life right beside you. When you let me teach you to see again, you will discover that in a world full of bad news, betrayal, and falsehood, there are still countless signs of goodness, of hope, of light, and you yourself are invited to become such a sign for someone. So just keep coming, even when your heart feels like a tangled mess, when your prayer is awkward, jumbled, and looks nothing like any model you have seen. I do not love you any less, because your words are not beautiful yet, your faith is not steady yet, your life is not complete yet. I am your Father, the one who created you, the one who understands every tightening of your heart more clearly than you understand yourself. I am more patient than anything you have ever imagined about me. I do not wait for you at the very end of a long to-do list, but right at the moment when, in the middle of a pressured day, you simply lift your eyes for a second and whisper, "Father, I need you." That single cry is enough for me to bend down and gather you into my arms, not with a miracle that makes every problem vanish, but with a steady presence that keeps you from being alone in front of those problems. I will keep using each new dawn to remind you that the journey is not over yet. I will keep using your relationships, your encounters, even the unexpected joys and sorrows to tell you, I walk with you through every stretch of the road. And if one day you find yourself slipping again, stumbling again, wanting to run away again, remember this: the road home is never closed. I do not stand at the threshold to interrogate you about where you have been, what you have done, how badly you have failed. I simply open my arms so that the moment you turn your back on the darkness, the first thing you meet is not a sentence of condemnation, but the embrace of a father who still believes you are worth loving, worth lifting up, worth finishing the story with. all the way to the last page. My child, I beg you, do not lock your heart just because you are tired of feeling too much. I see how many times you have chosen to let your heart grow a little numb, a little colder, a little more indifferent, just so you would not have to face sorrow, disappointment, and things that do not go your way. But do not forget, the same heart that knows how to ache when it is wounded is also the heart that can tremble with happiness, burst open with joy over something very small, and grow warm again in the shelter of a genuine embrace. If you anesthetize yourself so that you no longer feel pain, you are also cutting off your own capacity for deep joy. I shaped you with a full range of emotions, not to torment you, but so you would know what it means to truly live, to know how to cry and how to laugh, how to feel sorrow and to be moved, how to touch the pain of others because you yourself have walked through dark valleys. Do not be afraid of being sensitive. I do not reject you for being weak. I only worry when you train yourself to no longer feel anything at all, when nothing stirs you in the face of goodness anymore, when injustice no longer makes your heart hurt. A heart that no longer knows how to ache is also a heart that will struggle to recognize me, because I often come to you precisely in the confusion, in the inner tug of war, in those moments when you sit in silence, unable to find any words that can express what you feel. I know you wish you could be calm in the face of everything, untouched by whatever happens around you. But true peace is not the absence of feeling. It is the ability to feel everything, the joy and the sorrow, and yet not be pulled out of my arms by any of it. True peace is when you weep, yet still cling tightly to me, when you are disappointed yet still have enough courage to whisper, I do not understand, but I will not let go of you. Father, do not be too frightened by the changes in your life. I know how uneasy you feel about surprises, about plans being overturned, about relationships changing color, about places you are forced to leave. You often wish, if only everything could stay just as it is now, stable like this forever, because within that stability, you imagine you will be safe. But look at the natural world I have placed around you. Day always follows night, sun gives way to rain, summer passes and autumn arrives. No season can keep itself forever. A field can only bear grain if the seed consents to break apart in the earth, and a tender shoot can only push upward if the hard shell around it is willing to crack. You are the same. If you cling to keeping everything just as it is, you will remain standing still while everything else moves forward. I do not break things just to shatter you. I only loosen from your hands what has reached the end of its time, things that were once blessings but have now become burdens, supports that seem to protect you but actually keep you stuck in place. Many things you are clinging to today may indeed have been my answer to you in a previous season, but if you turn them into idols, you will refuse to step into the new thing I am preparing. I ask you to trust that when I touch a door, when I allow a chapter to close, I do not do so with the thrill of a destroyer, but with the tenderness of a father who knows that if this chapter drags on, you will lose more than you gain. I see the tree you can become. That is why I must prune some branches, so that it will not topple when it grows. You only see the leaves and twigs falling to the ground, but I see the roots gaining the chance to drink deeper from the source of life. I understand very well what you feel when I ask you to let go of something you cherish, a relationship, an opportunity, a plan, a dream. You want to hold it tight against your chest because you are afraid that if you loosen your grip, it will fly away forever. You think, if I do not hold on, I will be left with nothing. But my child, your hands are small. Your strength is limited. You cannot carry everything forever. I ask you for something that seems absurd. Let me hold it for you. Whatever truly belongs to you in the deepest eternal sense will not disappear just because you place it into my hands. I do not snatch things from you to punish you. I invite you to give me what you love so that those things do not turn into chains around your feet. Wherever my slightest touch makes you panic and pull back, there you are, already bound. I never take a good thing from you without preparing a greater grace, but that grace may not look like what you are imagining. Sometimes I do not give back what you lost in its old shape, but I give you a new way of seeing that helps you understand why the old story had to end. Sometimes I do not mend what is torn, but I give you the strength to dare to sew a new piece of cloth. Sometimes I do not bring that person back into your life, but I give you another relationship that is healthier, or deeper, or quieter yet more healing. You tend to think greater means more spectacular, more impressive, something that makes others gasp in admiration. But when I say I give you something higher, I usually mean things few people notice. A mature faith, a softened heart, an inner freedom that even storms can hardly shake. The world keeps whispering to you that you are only truly strong when you can control everything, when you hold the initiative, when you take your life into your own hands. You have drunk in that advice like sips of water in a desert, so you easily feel like a failure whenever something happens outside your plans. But do you see? The more you try to control, the more exhausted you become. The more you try to hold everything in your hands, the more anxious you grow, because just one small detail going off course can overturn all your calculations. I did not create you to be a universal steering wheel capable of directing every wave in your life, because you cannot do that. What I invite you to is not resignation, but surrender. Surrender does not mean dumping everything on me and living irresponsibly. It means doing your part with an honest conscience, then leaving the rest for me to arrange. When you choose to live like that, you will discover a very different kind of strength. The strength of someone who knows they are not the center of the universe, not the only one, who has to strain every nerve to keep everything from collapsing. You will feel lighter because you know there is someone greater carrying the load with you. Submitting to me does not mean you vanish, get swallowed up, or have your name erased. On the contrary, when you let me lead, you gradually return to the most beautiful truth of who you are, the truth of being a child, not a slave to projects, expectations, or the gaze of others. I do not want you to live with the sense that you are always indebted to life, indebted to everyone, running without daring to stop because you are afraid that if you pause, you will be left behind. Your deepest identity does not lie in what you can control, but in the relationship you have with me. You are my child before you are anything else, before the position you hold, the role you fulfill, the image you are trying to build. When you allow me to truly be your father, you will see that surrender is not tying your own hands, but ceasing to thrash about in panic so that your hand is free to take hold of mine. Trusting me does not make you smaller, it makes you less alone in the big and small decisions of every day. Instead of measuring, calculating, and bearing all responsibility by yourself, you learn to ask, "Father, in this matter, what do you desire from me?" That question does not strip you of your freedom to choose. It helps you choose in peace, because you know there is a wiser one enlightening you. You were not created to live under the yoke of fear all your life. I did not mold you out of anxiety, nor did I write your name with ink made of panic. I know how many things make you tremble: fear of failure, fear of being mocked, fear of losing someone you love, fear of poverty, of sickness, of aging, of death, fear of your past, fear of your future, even fear of your own self. Those fears do not disappear on their own, but they also have no right to chain you forever if you let me enter in. I do not reproach you for the many times you have shaken with fear. I only ask that you do not let fear become the compass for every decision. When fear speaks, practice pausing a moment, breathing deeply, then speaking to me with complete honesty. I am afraid, but I do not want fear to decide for me. Please help me choose what is right, even though I am still shaking. Every time you do the right thing while still afraid, your faith grows a little. Every time you dare to take one more step without seeing the whole road ahead, your surrender gains another layer. And each time, you step deeper into my protection. Not a protection that guarantees a life without risk, but a protection over a heart that knows to whom it belongs, and so is less and less swallowed up by circumstances. I hope that one day, when you look back, you will realize that it was precisely those times you chose to trust while your heart was pounding with fear, chose to let go when every instinct in you wanted to cling, chose to feel fully both pain and joy instead of switching off all emotion. Those were the moments that shaped a different person within you, more mature, more gentle, more profound. I do not promise that you will never cry again, but I promise that every tear that falls into my hand is counted, kept, and transformed into a seed for a future reunion. I do not promise that you will never experience loss, but I promise that no loss will be meaningless if you let me walk through it with you. I do not promise that you will never pass through the night, but I promise that morning will still come, and when the dawn breaks, you will understand why I had to lead you along that path. Above all, I want you to know this. From beginning to end, from the time you did not yet know me until the day you stand face to face with me, you never have to walk alone. Whether you are smiling or trembling, whether you are holding a new gift or have just released something you love, I am still holding your hand. That is the deepest protection I give you, not shielding you from every change, but being with you in every change, so that each step you take, even the staggering one, still moves toward the light where I wait for you, patient and never growing weary. My child, the fear inside you is not the invincible monster you imagine. It is more like a shadow stretched long across the wall. When the light goes out, once the light appears, that shadow shrinks and disappears at once. Fear grows whenever you stare too long at what you do not understand, at the worst-case scenarios your imagination paints, and forget to lift your eyes to me. When you fix your gaze only on bad news, on gloomy predictions, on the inner voice that condemns you, of course fear will swell until it seems to hide even me from view. But once you return to the truth that I am with you, that I know every vein and fiber, every limit, every wound in you, that I love you not with empty words but with a love that has gone through the cross, then fear no longer has ground to stand on. I have already told my children that perfect love drives out fear not because it denies the reality of what is frightening, but because it gives you a firmer foundation than the things that make you tremble. When you let me say to you, "It is I, do not be afraid," and you choose to believe even while your emotions are still shaking, you are drawing your soul out of the shadows into the light, where fear is exposed for what it is, lies blown out of proportion. Every time you choose to trust, even in the smallest way, you are clearing a space in your heart so that I have room to act. Do not think of miracles only as you have often heard them told: terminal illnesses suddenly cured, debts resolving themselves, great doors unexpectedly flinging open. Of course I can still do those things, and I have done them many times in your life without you noticing, but there are also quiet miracles that you tend to overlook, even though they are the very transformations that can turn your whole life around. When a heart that once hardened itself because of wounds slowly becomes soft again, able to weep over the pain of others instead of only worrying about its own scars, that is a miracle. When a mind that used to think only in the same old patterns, always ready to jump to the worst conclusion, slowly learns to think in the light of my word, learns to pause before speaking in haste, learns to look at an event through the eyes of hope instead of despair, that is a miracle. When, right in the middle of a season where nothing is resolved yet, where there is still lack, still danger, and yet inside you a strange peace begins to glow, not because everything is finished, but because you sense that I am holding you from within, that too is a miracle. These changes make no noise, They do not make the headlines. They are not praised by crowds, but they mark something of immense importance. I am there. I am very near. I am touching the deepest places of your soul where no human hand can reach. I know you often ask yourself, if the Father loves me, why doesn't He take all the suffering out of my life? Why doesn't He stop everything before it has the chance to hurt me? Those questions do not irritate me. On the contrary, they show that you are honestly wrestling between what you believe about me and what you are experiencing in the present. I do not blame you for those questions, but I want gently to correct the image of love that you are carrying in your heart. The kind of love the world advertises is a love that always tries to create an absolutely safe bubble that will not let a single scratch touch you, that does not allow anyone to disturb your comfort, that never lets hard truth step through the door. That kind of love is like a layer of plastic wrapped on the outside, keeping everything intact, but making everything suffocate. My love is not a shield that blocks every impact. It is a power that steps right into those very collisions in order to transform their meaning. I do not design suffering. I do not delight in watching you cry. I do not lay out misfortunes just to test you. Most of these things arise from human freedom, from the brokenness of the world, from wrong choices piled up over many generations. But I refuse to stand outside with folded arms just watching. I step right into the heart of that reality, as my son once stepped into history, bearing the condition of a man carrying the cross, so that from the inside I can bend those cruel straight lines in another direction, the direction of salvation. Look at the cross. It is injustice, cruelty, humiliation, the extremity of pain. Seen with ordinary eyes, it is a disgraceful failure. But in my hands, the cross becomes a road, a bridge, a key that bursts open the prison of sin for humanity. The worst thing human beings could do to my son, I turned into the best gift for you: forgiveness, reconciliation, the open door back to the Father's house. In the same way, with every tragedy, large or small, in your life, I am quietly weaving a thread of redemption. You see only a dark patch very close to your eyes. While I am looking at the whole tapestry, the side you see is the underside, all knots and tangles and jumbled colors. The side I see is the right side, where every thread, even the ugly black ones, contributes to a picture that will leave you in awe when it is complete. There are things that right now you can only scream at, why? But on another day, in glory, that question will give way to a deep, astonished sigh. Ah, so that's what it was. I know how hard it is for you to accept this when you are in the very eye of the storm. When you are in pain, you cannot immediately see meaning, and I do not demand that of you. I do not expect you to stand in the midst of grief and say, "I am so happy," or to wear a fake smile as if you cannot feel the pain. I accept your sobs, your complaints, your questions dripping with resentment. I read everything you do not dare to say out loud to anyone. I hear even the sentences you only dare to whisper very softly to me. I'm so tired. I don't understand anything anymore. I just want to let go. But even in that moment, I am still gently placing my hand on your back and quietly reminding you, you cannot see everything right now, but do not rush to a verdict. What you are calling the end today may very well be only a comma in my text. What you see as total loss may in fact be quietly returning you to what truly belongs to you. The people you think you cannot live without may be precisely those who, if I were to let them walk alongside you longer, would pull you off the path I have prepared for you. My love cannot prevent every farewell, but it can transform those farewells into opportunities for you to learn to love without clinging, to learn to be grateful even for what has passed without trying to hold on to it at any cost. Many times, it is fear itself that exhausts you more than the trial does. You fear the future. You fear repeating old mistakes. You fear not being enough. You fear being abandoned. You fear waking up one day to find that everything you have suddenly vanished. That fear whispers in your ear all day long, turning even the smallest possibility into the worst-case scenario. It tells you that this life is a lonely battle, and that you are the one who must secure your own safety by controlling everything, calculating every step, squeezing yourself dry so that you will not fall behind anyone. I see you spinning like a top in the midst of those pressures, and I call you back. Let me truly be your father. You are not the savior of the world. You are not the one who has to carry everything. You do not need to do it all to prove that you are worthy of love. You have already been loved first. When you begin to believe that you are loved unconditionally, you will fear less the loss of external things, because the foundation of your security will no longer be what you possess, but the one who is holding you. Then fear will be like a child who is used to screaming but gradually realizes that the father's calming voice is stronger than its own, and it quiets down. You often think your tears fall into emptiness, disappear, dilute into nothing where no one sees. But I see them very differently. Every tear of yours is cherished by me as something immensely precious. I do not count your achievements as people do. I count the times you have wept and yet did not turn your back and walk away from me, the nights you lost sleep and still turned your heart toward me, even if only with a weak little whisper, "Father, I can't take it anymore, but I still want to stay with you." In my eyes, those moments are more beautiful than the days when you stand on the mountaintop of success and say grand words about faith. I do not waste a single one of your tears. I gather them all and keep them in my heart, and one day they will become raindrops, falling on other deserts you will pass through, or on the deserts of those you will comfort. The pain you are living through today, if touched by me, will become precious oil that you can later pour on the wounds of others, with a compassion that only those who have walked through darkness can offer. There are things I am doing in your heart that even you have not yet noticed. You only see yourself as more tired, more sensitive, more frequently hurt, and yet at the same time you notice that you are deeper in the way you listen, less quick to judge when you see someone else fall, more patient in small things that used to irritate you so easily. That is not just happening by itself. That is the trace of a hand shaping you under pressure. Like a potter who uses force to mold the clay, if the clay could speak, it would probably cry out, "It hurts. Why do you keep spinning me, pressing me, pushing me like that?" But the potter knows what he is doing. He sees in that soft lump of clay the shape of a vessel, and he does not stop until it appears. I am the same. I see in you a beauty you yourself cannot see, endurance, compassion, wisdom, the capacity to love to the end. For those things to emerge, some old layers must crack, peel away, be remade. That hurts you, but if you patiently remain with me, someday you will look back and have to admit, if it had not been for those years, I would never have become the person I am now. I do not desire that you become a superhuman who never gets tired, never feels sad, never trembles. I only long for you to learn one thing. Do not let the darkness define you. Whatever the circumstances, you may still weep, still sigh, still feel small, but deep within, hold tight to this truth. Your story does not end here. It does not end in the hospital. It does not end with the divorce papers. It does not end with the notice of unemployment. It does not end in the cramped, rented room where you see no future. Those pages are real. They are part of the book, but they are not the final chapter. The last chapter is in my hands, the one who has promised that there will come a day when I wipe every tear from your eyes, a day when there will be no more mourning, no more crying, no more pain. Until that day comes, I ask you for one thing. Keep walking forward, even slowly, but walk with me. And when you feel you are about to collapse, remember all that I have already done for you, even the very small things. Remember the time you thought you would never get through, yet you did. Remember the evenings when you were sure you would sink for good, yet the next morning you still managed to wake up. Remember the times when you thought that particular death was the end, but out of that very death, a new path opened up, one you had never imagined. Each of those memories is a stone you can lay under your feet, forming a path on which to keep moving and to remind yourself, if the Father has held me that many times, why would he abandon me this time? I do not change my mind halfway. My love is not a passing gust of wind. I have begun this story with you. I will go on writing it, and I will be there when the story reaches its conclusion full of light. Until then, cry if you need to cry, speak to me if you need to pour out your heart, but do not let go of my hand. Because in my hands, no tear falls in vain, no pain is meaningless, and no dark chapter is beyond my power to use in making the story between you and me all the more radiant. My child, from now until the day when all things are revealed, I ask you for just one thing, which seems so simple and yet is the hardest road of all. Keep walking by faith, and not only by what your eyes can see. There will be stretches where every outward sign seems to be against you, where your prayers seem to fall into emptiness, where the plans you cherished shatter in an instant. If you rely only on feelings and what you can measure, you will easily conclude that I have turned my back on you. But precisely then, my word rings out more clearly than ever. We live by faith, not by sight. See 2 Cor 5-7. Faith is not closing your eyes to reality. It is daring to believe that there is a reality greater than what you are enduring, a hand that is holding you even when you cannot feel it, a heart that never ceases to be moved for you, even when you think you are struggling alone. I am not sitting far away on a cold throne watching you flounder. I am so close that the moment you whisper my name, you touch me, right there in the weary breath of your own chest. I am very near, closer even than the beat of your heart that you rarely notice. I am in the sigh you do not dare let anyone hear, in the tear you hastily wipe away as you step out of the room, in the times you want to give up but still whisper to yourself, just one more day, when you think, I am so alone. I am still standing right there, often in forms you do not expect, a friend who suddenly sends a message, a line from Scripture that touches exactly the question in your heart, an old song that begins to play just as your mind is in turmoil. I do not always answer with thunder or great miracles. Most of the time I choose to whisper, because I do not want to overwhelm you. I want you to be free to respond. My love is not a rope that ties you down, but a space that surrounds you. That is why I do not control each of your steps like a puppet, but I always walk alongside, stretching out my hand whenever you begin to lose balance. If you would only pause for a moment and turn inward for a beat, you would realize that on some stretches of the road it was truly I who carried you across, not just walked beside you. And when you have tasted even a little of my patience, I invite you to look again at how you treat the people around you. You are very quick to be strict with others, precisely at the points where you wish they were more mature, more reasonable, more self-aware, and you forget that you yourself also have dark corners, wounds, and fears that make your behavior hard to understand in the eyes of others. I want you to learn to see every face you meet as a story, still in progress, as a book not yet finished, not as a verdict already stamped and sealed. Every person you encounter, from those in your own family to a stranger passing briefly by, is carrying burdens on their shoulders that you cannot fully see. Some people are harsh not because they were born evil, but because they are exhausted by repeated heartbreak. Some people seem cold not because they have no heart, but because their heart has grown calloused after too many times of trusting the wrong person. If you could pause for a moment and ask yourself, I wonder what pain lies behind this attitude, you would find your heart less eager to strike back, less eager to pay them back in kind, and more ready to feel compassion. I know there are times you feel it is terribly unfair that you have to yield, to be gentle, to restrain yourself when the other person is being so unreasonable. Something inside you wants to shout, to answer back, to teach them a lesson, so they will know that being gentle does not mean others can do whatever they please with you. I do not deny that hurt. I do not ask you to become a stone without feeling. But I want to show you a path different from your usual instinct of self-defense. The path of a strong meekness, neither weak nor cowardly. When I invite you, learn from me, for I am gentle and humble of heart. Confer. Mount 1129. I am not speaking of a timid temperament, but of a solidity so deep it does not need to scream to prove itself. A truly gentle person is not someone who never feels anger, but someone who is free enough not to be ruled by it. That person chooses soft words not out of fear, but out of the knowledge that anger has never healed a single wound. The greatest strength is not to strike someone down, but to lift them up, even when they once caused you to fall. I want your soul to become a place where others can breathe, not another battlefield they must step into. The world you live in has more than enough spaces where people are scrutinized, labeled, and measured by each small mistake. I call you to stand out by being different, to be someone who knows how to listen before judging, who asks, "Are you okay?" before saying, "You are wrong," who looks at the whole journey of another person and not just at a single moment of their failure. This does not mean covering up evil or agreeing with what is wrong. It means you choose to see them in the light with which I see them, seeing both their sin and their longing, their weakness and their capacity to grow, what needs correction and what is still beautifully alive in them. When you train your eyes to see this way, you will discover something strange. Your own heart also begins to be healed. You become less insecure, less harsh with yourself, because you realize that I, too, look at you in the very same way, not only at the times you fall, but also at the quiet moments when you rise again. Love, in your eyes, is sometimes misunderstood as something soft, easily exploited, or reserved only for romantic moments. In my eyes, love is a steadfast decision, a heart that dares to stay when everything in it wants to run away, hands that dare to open when everyone else is drawing back to protect themselves. When I say, God is love, confer, 1 John 4-8, I am not speaking of a vague feeling but of my deepest essence. I am the one who always moves outward, always gives, always puts the good of the other first, even when that means I must pay a price. If you truly want to know me, you cannot merely collect information, read more spiritual books, or listen to more sermons. You need to step out and begin to love in concrete ways, in the most ordinary situations. Washing the dishes for a tired mother, sending a message to a friend everyone else has forgotten, being patient with a child going through a rebellious phase, being kind to a server at a restaurant even when they make a mistake. Each of these small actions, when done with the intention to give of yourself, becomes a small mirror reflecting my face. There are people around you who truly seem unworthy of the kindness you extend to them, at least according to the standards of the world. They fail, they are ungrateful, they take advantage. They even turn around and hurt you more. I see all of that. But precisely for this reason I tell you, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Confer, Elk 6:32. A love that only pays back in fairness is not yet a love that bears my face. It is still just a kind of exchange. Love in the way I love you means daring to give a little more even when there is no response, daring to trust once more even after being betrayed, daring to be patient for one more stretch of the road even when the other does not change as quickly as you expect. This does not mean you must allow anyone to trample on you or remain in abusive relationships. I never want you to stay where you are being harmed. But in every circumstance, Even when you need to withdraw to protect your own well-being, you can still choose to withdraw without bitterness, without cursing, without turning yourself into a copy of the one who hurt you. Forgiveness is a very difficult form of love, but it is also the place where you become the most free. I know there are stories in your life where just hearing that person's name or recalling that scene makes your heart tighten and your throat choke. That is a sign that the wound is still very deep. Forgiveness does not mean saying what happened was not serious, nor does it mean denying your feelings of being wronged. Forgiveness is handing over to me the right to judge, letting go of the need to make them pay in your mind every day. When you keep them in the courtroom of your heart, you are forced to hold a trial every day, to review the evidence, to replay the old scene, and in doing so, you are the one trapped in an endless loop. When you say to me, "I cannot forgive by myself, but I do not want to cling to this forever. Father, I hand the rest over to you," that is when the sentence begins to dissolve, not first over their head, but over yours. Gradually, though the memory does not disappear, it becomes less sharp, less piercing, less able to hurt you as it did at the beginning. Because I have placed my hand upon the wound and slowly pulled out each thorn. Each time you choose to forgive, even if it is very slow, even if it is only little by little, you are loosening the chains around your own heart. Hatred always promises that it will protect you from being hurt again, but in reality, it locks you inside an invisible prison where light can hardly enter. When you forgive, you do not deny the injustice that happened. You simply decide that you will no longer let that injustice define who you are. You are no longer just the betrayed one, the offended one, the abandoned one, but you return to your true identity, the one who is loved by the Father. In that identity, you can welcome new relationships, new opportunities, without seeing everyone through the distorted lens of old wounds. And you will be surprised to find yourself no longer overreacting to small things, because your heart has become lighter. The walls of defense you built around yourself also gradually come down, so that I can bring into your life healthier people and healthier relationships. Do not forget that every time you love, every time you forgive, every time you show compassion, you are not merely doing a good deed, and that's it. You are taking part in a great work that stretches far beyond your own lifetime. The work I am patiently carrying out in history, in the church, in each family, each city. The world notices what is dazzling, the big events, the noisy upheavals. I instead see the hidden things that only you and I know. That time you swallowed back a cutting remark. That time you said, "I'm sorry," even though you were right. That time you shared your little with someone in greater need. These things, in my eyes, never disappear. They become small stones, building a path of light through many generations. Where charity and love are, there God is present. Each time you choose to love, I gain one more place to rest in the midst of this noisy world. And then, through the years, if you persevere on this path, you will discover a marvel. You, too, are being protected in a very mysterious way. Love seems to make you wide open and vulnerable, but in truth, it clothes you with another kind of armor, the armor of gentleness, of compassion, of a deep trust that darkness is not the final chapter. Harsh words will no longer pierce you as easily as before. Disappointments will no longer drag you so quickly into the abyss of despair, because you have fastened your heart to something more enduring, to me, who am love, until the day you see me face to face. Confer. 1 Cor 13:12. You will continue walking this road, believing when you have not yet seen, loving when you are not yet understood, forgiving when no apology has been offered, and showing mercy even when you yourself are still in pain. Each such step, however small, leads you deeper into my place of protection, where the darkness may roar but no longer has the right to write the rest of your story. My little child, do not rush to condemn yourself whenever you stumble or lose your way, for you are learning something that no one on this earth can fully grasp in just a day or two. How to live amid so many changes and still keep your heart turned toward what never fades. You are striving to earn your daily bread, bearing the gazes, the demands, the harsh comparisons of others, listening to countless opposing voices in your mind, while still trying to remember that there is me, the one who sees and understands even what you cannot put into words. So when you fall, it is not proof that you are useless or deserve to be discarded, but only a sign that you are still learning to walk on the path of light, a path that is not always smooth or easy. A little child learning to walk will fall again and again, sometimes bumping their head, scraping their hands, bursting into tears, but no true father abandons a child for that. On the contrary, each fall moves him to come closer, to pick the child up, to soothe and dry their tears. So it is with you and me. I do not sit there counting how many times you have fallen so that I can compare you with others. I only look to see whether, after each stumble, you still have the courage to stretch out your hand for me to hold. Each time you choose to get up, even when your knees still sting and your heart still burns with shame over what you have done, you are opening a space for me to use that very fragility to teach you to live more gently, more tenderly, instead of becoming harder and more closed off with each passing day. You don't realize it, but the scratches on your soul are quietly widening your heart little by little. When you are misunderstood, you suddenly find it easier to listen to others who are also being misjudged. When you have tasted the feeling of being abandoned, you become more alert to the quiet figures, the shy eyes, the people who always sit in the hidden corners no one notices. When the plans and dreams you cherished fall apart one after another, you are forced to ask yourself, in the end, what is truly lasting? What foundation can I stand on without fearing that everything will collapse at any moment? Right in the midst of those questions, I gently remind you that I have never used your achievements or your position to measure your worth, because to me, the worth of a soul does not lie in how much you own or how far you've gone, but in the one to whom you belong. I have placed my own breath of life in you. I have engraved your name upon my heart, and no accusation or criticism from this world has the power to erase that mark. You may lose your job, your reputation, the relationships you once believed were forever, but you cannot lose the truth that you are, my beloved child, even on the days when you feel not lovable at all. I know there are times you look back on the road you've traveled and see only a chain of wrong choices, a list of things you should have done differently, the turns you wish you had never taken. You blame yourself. If I were more capable, if I were wiser, if I were less weak, maybe my life wouldn't be this messy. You use those words to set up a courtroom in your mind where you are at once the defendant, the judge, and the one who carries out the sentence. You lock yourself in the dark room of "if only," hang on its walls the signs "failure," "ruined," "too late," and sit there staring at them every day. But my child, I do not step into your room with that kind of gaze. In the cracks along your journey, I see tiny openings where light can slip through. In each unwise choice, I see a chance for you to understand your own limits more clearly, to loosen the illusion that if you just try hard enough, you can turn everything around on your own. And every time you fall, I see an invitation for you to lean on me more, instead of tightening yourself alone until you break. If you had never been shaken, never once felt weak, it is very likely you would never have noticed my hand quietly supporting you from behind, because you would think you were standing firm entirely by your own strength. There is something I want you to etch deeply in your heart. You are not the flimsy labels that people, or even you yourself, stick onto your own being. Others may look at you and say, "They're such a mess, they're beyond repair, they always bother everyone, they're worthless." Gradually, you begin to pick up those sentences, bring them home, and repeat them in your mind like a dark refrain. Yet that is not how I call you. When I look at you, I do not see a faulty file to be discarded. I see a work of art in the middle of being completed. When I look at you, I do not see a meaningless pile of rubble. I see rough stones which I patiently rearrange, sanding down the rough spots, softening the sharp edges, fitting each piece together so that a form slowly appears, one you yourself never imagined could be yours. You only see the mud, the stains, the chaos before your eyes, but I already see the garden that can grow from that very ground. You only see your hands calloused from clinging to everything, always in a defensive posture, but I see those same hands one day, becoming gentler, learning to receive, to cherish, to comfort others with the very experience of having been battered by life. That is why you must not keep using the distorted lenses of this world to examine yourself ever again. Do not let a careless remark, a harsh word spoken in anger, an unfair comparison become the foundation stone of the inner house you are living in. Do not gather your failures and build upon them a life sentence for yourself. You are larger than every number, every result, every milestone by which the world classifies people. Even when you are at the bottom of the valley, even when you cannot see a single bright spot in yourself, I still see in you seeds that, given time and grace, will break forth with a strength beyond anything you hope for. No one looking at a solid block of stone can guess the beautiful statue hidden within. Only the sculptor knows what form he is carving toward. I am that sculptor for your soul. Every chisel stroke I make in your life may hurt you, may startle you, may leave you not understanding, but I know I am removing what is excessive, crooked, and out of line, so that one day, when you see yourself through my eyes, you will recognize that all along I have seen in you a beauty you never dared to believe could be yours. I do not tear anything down unless I intend to make it new, deeper, and truer. When you are exhausted, I do not expect you to perform any more roles of strength. I do not require you to force a smile, to brace yourself and pretend to be totally fine while your heart is in turmoil. I certainly do not demand that you prove you are moral enough, faithful enough, by never lamenting. I know exactly how tired you are. I see clearly the nights you toss and turn, the mornings you wake up only wanting to run away from everything. That is why, when you are weary, what I am waiting for is not your trying harder, but your turning back, sitting down beside me, taking a deep breath, and saying, I have no strength left. I have told you that whoever is heavily burdened may come to me, and I will give them a place of refuge. That rest is not always my erasing every problem, but first of all, my placing within your heart a strange, deep peace. A peace that does not depend on whether things are solved today or not, but helps you see everything more slowly, more lightly, more truthfully. You do not have to play the hero before me. I am not looking for children who always appear invulnerable. I treasure the children who dare to bring all their trembling, all their tender, weak places to me. Your true strength does not lie in how rarely you fall, but in the fact that each time you fall, you know how to come back to the very place that can lift you up without condemning you. I am that place. I do not sit high above, arms crossed, watching how you struggle and only then decide whether to help you. I step down to where you are fumbling, stained and confused, to untie each knot, together with you. I do not leave the messy room when you have turned everything upside down. I stay at your side, guiding you to tidy things little by little, teaching you to draw lessons instead of only knowing how to blame yourself. So let me become your endurance when you cannot bear any more, your hope when you have no reason left for optimism, your source of life when you feel nothing inside but fatigue. You only need to honestly say, I have nothing beautiful to offer, only broken pieces and weariness, and that is precisely when I have room to fill. I am not afraid of messy hearts. I am powerless only before hearts that are shut, that insist, I'm fine, I don't need anyone. So if today you feel weak, fragile, and worn out, take it as a reminder that you were never made to carry everything alone. You were not born to shoulder the entire sky. You were born to be held, to be guided, to be loved. I have been present in every stage of your journey, even from the days when you did not yet know how to call my name. I remember every smile, every time you burst into tears, every word you whispered in the night, even the long silences you yourself have forgotten. And I have a plan that is quiet yet persistent, not to let a single one of your wounds become meaningless. If you dare to hand me your past, I will use it as material to shape in you a heart that feels and loves others more. If you entrust to me your tangled present, I will turn it into a meeting place between you and me, where you learn to recognize me right in the chaos. If you surrender to me your uncertain future, I will lead you step by step, not with a detailed blueprint, but with a hand that never lets go of yours. You do not need to know everything in advance. You only need to know who is walking beside you. And I tell you with certainty, I never abandon halfway a work of art I have begun. Your life is not a ruined draft to be torn up, but a page I am still patiently editing, adding to, and taking away, until it reflects in some measure my love. So be gentle with yourself as I have been patient with you. Believe that in the midst of everything unfinished, I am still at work in you, and the very fact that you are in my arms today, for me, is already a miracle. In this moment, with everything that is welling up in your heart, come back to me and pour out to me the deepest prayers within you. Almighty God, I come before you as someone who is often afraid, who tends to shrink back before suffering, and who has numbed my own heart many times because I could not bear any more wounds. Today, I offer to you this very weak heart, with all its fractures, its fears, and the memories I wish I could forget but which keep haunting me. Please do not let my fear of pain rob me of the ability to rejoice, nor let my fear of being hurt close the door to the good things you desire to send. Teach me to weep without falling into despair, to be sad without becoming bitter, to feel the sting and yet still believe that you are very near. With your gentle hands, please soothe the places that have grown hardened. Awaken within me those regions of feeling that I have deliberately silenced, so that I may truly live fully and authentically, and not merely exist. Grant that I may dare to open my heart to receive both joy and sorrow as inseparable parts of my journey with you, and let every emotion within me be placed under the light of your love, so that they may no longer be a flood that overwhelms me, but become streams of living water that refresh my soul, teaching me to feel, to love, and to show greater compassion. Merciful Father, you know well how many times I have clung tightly to things in my hands simply because I feared change, feared loss, and feared having to start all over again. Whenever a door closes, a relationship fades, or a plan falls apart, I am thrown into confusion, and I find myself asking, Father, why don't you just let everything stay the way it was? Today, I bring to you all the upheavals taking place, all the things I can no longer control, all the chapters of my life that I do not want to end, but still must come to a close. Please give me new eyes to see in these changes, not only loss, but also an invitation to step into the new things you have been quietly preparing. Help me remember that, just as the 4 seasons follow one another, my life too must have its times of shedding leaves and standing bare, so that one day tender buds may sprout again. Help me stop clinging to what has already fulfilled its mission, stop trying to hold on to what no longer helps me grow, and stop imprisoning myself in comfort zones that are slowly becoming a cage. Teach me to believe that you are not pushing me off a cliff, but leading me around a bend in the road, And even though I cannot yet see what lies beyond the curve, your hand has never once let go of mine, not for a single moment. Almighty God, I thank you because you have not demanded that I become untouchable, always strong, always fine, always smiling. I thank you because you allow me to weep, to be tired, to sigh, to be weak, right within your embrace, without scolding me or casting me away. I am grateful that in the nights, when I thought I was falling apart, you used those very moments to show me that my heart is still alive, still capable of feeling pain for what is good, and therefore still capable of love. I thank you because every time I thought I had broken beyond repair, I looked back and saw that I was still standing, upheld by a strength that did not come from me, but from you. Please continue to teach me the grace of accepting my own fragility as a path that leads me closer to you, for only when I dare to look up and say, I need you, do I truly come into contact with the boundless mercy of your heart. Good Father, I bow before you in thanksgiving for the changes that I once only knew how to complain about, resent, and resist. I thank you for the doors that closed, even though I wept so much at the time. I thank you for the roads that were blocked, the relationships that had to end, and the plans I was forced to abandon, because through them I was kept from sinking deeper into things that could have destroyed me. I thank you for the times you pruned me through painful events which, only in hindsight, I now see as cuts of love, cuts that made me less proud, less deluded, and less dependent on what is fleeting. I thank you for patiently leading me through those seasons of falling leaves, so that today I can savor the fresh new buds in my soul, a deeper calm, a greater maturity, a more profound appreciation for the value of simple things. Please help me never forget to say thank you for those things over which I once only knew how to sigh, because it is precisely through them that I have come into a greater freedom in you. I offer this prayer in the holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we can build a strong and vibrant community of faith.